Did everyone get a chance to get one of those sheets? Yeah, let's pass a couple over here. Basically, they're just guidelines. I'm going to be talking over the AC, so if I need to repeat anything, just wave me down one more time. Or if you're confused about what I may be talking about, you're more than welcome to go try again. And I will try again. Try it. But it may come out fast, but I'm gonna slow it down and pump the brakes for you guys. Real quick, let me get this is what I'd like y'all to do. Everyone think about your animals at home, would say dogs specifically, and on one hand or two, hold up how many animals or dogs you have at your house right now. 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 4. Good. 4. Number 4. What are their ages?
10 estimated, 10, 6, 8, 5, and then 2.
2. Gotcha. So the 2-year-old, right? Adolescent dog amongst some older folks, right? So reason why I'm just curious to know who I'm talking to, but also it's important to recognize when you have multiple animals, and we'll talk about it towards the end, there's a lot of compatibility that you have to assess in everyone's best interest. Dogs, the older ones, younger one, and yourselves too. How many humans?
2.
Nice, nice. Okay. So the way I'd like to start this conversation is the idea of what it's like to take in a dog. Raise your hand if you have a foster right now. Oh, nice. So, okay, so I'm assuming y'all are interested in fostering or adopting, and we're all on the same team, right? So the things that I consider when I'm getting asked to foster a dog or I'm considering fostering a dog, one is how much is known about this dog? What's its backstory? Now, because we're talking about fosters and we're talking about rescues, the idea is there won't be anything up here for a second. Let me just, boom, 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 good. Nothing up there, I'll let you know. We'll do some video. But so, what is known of this dog, right? But the things that we have to always keep in the back of our minds is somebody got rid of this dog, right? Or somebody found the dog and then homed it, right? But the reality is we can't know everything about their backstory, so I try to assume everything, negative and positive. Just get it out of the way. Because like as a potential foster candidate, you're only going to be given limited information because that's all that they have, right? Maybe a photo, maybe a couple vet records, maybe some memos from people who have lived with the dog. All that is vital information, but it can't be all-consuming. It's just not that. I mean, because there are caveats to every experience a dog has because of the nuance within that experience. Does that make sense? Okay, good. But their history, as much as we can get, is worth retaining, and then getting their health, like getting a vet report on this dog. Just we're trying to rule out any underlying health issues from the front, okay, versus on the back end when a dog is snapping at people who touch its butt and it's got arthritis in its hips. You know, I mean, like there are things that we'll discover, right? But the more we know before the dog ever gets into your home, the better you're set up for success. That's our goal, is to try to set up fosters and the dogs and the existing dogs and kids and family members, everyone set up for success, okay? But a little bit of structure is really helpful. But a lot of this information, like I said, we have to put an asterisk by it, because this is, you know, a lot of times fosters are, well, I can't say a lot of times, but fosters range in age, you know, and if it's a 10-year-old foster, that's 10 years of history, right, that we have to consider. Remember, assume the worst. Assume the worst, get it out of the way. But if it's a young dog, or it's a puppy or an adolescent dog, they don't have a lot of history, but they're very impressionable, right? Puppies and adolescents are very impressionable. From an excited standpoint, young dogs can get excited really easily, and the more sensitive ones can get spooked really easily, right? So all those things we're considering from this specific dog, okay? Now, another thing that we have to consider when we're taking in a dog is your own unique environmental factors, right? Not everyone's house is the same, right? It just can't be, right? Because there are different people living in this house, even if they were carbon copies of the same structure, different people, different approaches, different routines, different nuances, right? So some things that I think are really helpful on the front end when you're considering taking in a foster are, things that we already know. What is the dog's routine going to be like, right? What is your routine like right now? That's a factor, right? Because it's going to change the moment that dog comes to live with you, right? Because now you got to take it out last before you go to bed, or take it out first in the morning, or, all those things now we have to consider, right? So having a predictable routine is helpful for you, and it's helpful for the dog, right? But it doesn't start off predictable on day one, because it's new for everybody, right? You have to kind of feel your way into that routine. But consistency over time will help the dog adjust easier into your environment, right? We all know this adjustment rule, the 3-3-3 rule, right? I kind of wish that wasn't as put out in front of people, because it gives people expectations, right? But the reality is there's no one size fits all for dogs in any case, from vet visits to gear to sleeping in crates or whatever, right? It's dependent on that individual. So those are the things we have to keep in mind, right? Is that this individual, based off the history that we have and that we're obtaining by living with it, how does that individual adjust into your routine, right? Because that piece of information right there is going to be one of the first things we tell the adopters. This is how he adjusted into my routine. It's not going to be exactly the same for yours, so don't expect it to be, but this is how he did it that time, right? That type of information is very subjective to that dog, but it's also very easily transferred to the next person, right? Again, these dogs, they're with different people. They're with boarding at a facility, or boarding at a vet, or a foster, to the next foster, to the adopter. That's like 5 different environments, right? But if we look at it like this and think, okay, what can we get from each of these experiences? It all comes together and we can deliver that to the adopter. More information, the better, but more objective information, right? And what I mean by that is when we say things like the dog nipped me or bit me or chased my daughter into a corner, right? I've heard all these things, right? It's very charged. That type of information is very charged, and not to put anybody on the defensive or to scare anybody about a dog they're taking in. This is just information, right? But you have to take some information at face value and then dig into it, right? Because let's take the dog charging the kid into the corner example, right? Somebody tells me that, all right, all my senses go up and go, okay, what's this dog's association with this kid on a normal day, right? What is their relationship like? Turns out they love to play chase. And she chased the dog, and the dog chased her. She had nowhere to run, right? Doesn't mean inherently anything negative was gonna happen. It's just the optics are bad. And if we translate that information, just like dog runs kids in the corner, yeah, everyone's gonna be a little apprehensive, reasonably so, right? But the reality is there's logic into all the behavior dogs do. We just have to pull it out, right? We have to refrain from throwing it through our human filter. And what I mean by that is we can make sense of a lot of things, right? I'll give you an example. So let's say I'm walking a dog, and it's a sensitive dog, meaning he gets spooked easily, or he gets excited easily. But I'm walking him, and another person, big guy, hat and sunglasses, starts walking past us. The dog runs behind my legs and starts barking at the dog, or at the guy, right? Or runs in front of me and starts barking at the guy, okay? Human translation is more likely going to think that dog is guarding us from that person. That dog is defending us because he's scared we might get hurt, right? That's human brain, okay? Logical brain says, we know this dog's sensitive, we know he gets spooked easily, so we went to where he felt most safe. And then it expressed, stay away from him, okay? So dogs express communication clearly through aggression. It's very dramatized with people because we don't want to get bit, or we have been bit. And we hold on to trauma way longer than they do. They're very present-minded, and they are going to communicate things in that very moment. Okay? And the logic is often more simple than we think. Again, we complicate it a lot. But I encourage you guys to kind of not jump to conclusions and go, okay, what are the facts here? Guy was walking towards us, he got spooked, he reacted. Okay, so we can find the logic in those scenarios. Does that make sense? How we can kind of process what is reality? And yeah, it's often more simple than we think. So next thing about your unique kind of environment I want to talk about is safe management. Okay, this dog is in a new place it has never been, right? Why should this dog feel safe? Why? You know, I mean, the reality is it's been tossed around all sorts of places. Who knows, right? But we can help this dog adjust by giving it space, like privacy space, you know, where it doesn't have to have its head on a swivel thinking things are coming at me, or things are popping out the corner, or people keep coming and going out that front door, right? So if you think about the things that we have to consider when we take in a dog from a management standpoint, where is the dog going to eat? Where is the dog going to sleep? Where is it going to go when you're gone? Where is it going to rest during the day? Nap time or decompression, same thing. But that final piece of the puzzle is probably the most important, I think. I mean, you get to, let's say you go out of the country to a trip, you fly to Italy, and you get there, you've been on the plane for 16 hours. Are you ready to go to a concert right now? Maybe not. Maybe you want to just melt and chill and get your bearings, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. They're the same, right? Same way. I mean, they need to decompress, and we'll talk deeper about more. Ooh.
That was magic.
It must be, I don't know. I'm going to not talk with my hands now. But I was going to say some dogs more than others need more decompression. Okay, I've kind of thought about this term for past 2 or 3 years now. It's like decompression therapy. Okay, it's not on YouTube, it's not on Netflix, it's not being pushed to dog owners, but I think it's so necessary, especially in the rescue world. Because again, you're dealing with dogs from all walks of life, all different mannerisms, all different arousal thresholds and things that they can tolerate and do well. But relax and decompress and just be. That is so vital for their development moving forward, right? And if if you have a foster and you've not seen them completely decompress, then you don't know that true dog yet, right? That is the real dog, right? Because otherwise you're dealing with dogs in play or in hypersensitive cases or hyper-aroused cases. And I'm not saying that's not the same dog. It's just he's in a different headspace right now, you know? That's like, how do I say this? Trying to have a heart-to-heart conversation with somebody who's in the middle of an intense game, right? They're like, get away from, I'm playing this game. No, not right now. I mean, brain patterns, these head spaces. And as you spend more time with them, you'll recognize, 18-month-old goober golden retriever is in super play mode right now, okay? If I try to ask him to sit or leave it or anything else, he's not capable of registering that because he's in play mode, right? Same thing in fight or flight or fearful states too. If they're hyper aware or hyper fearful right now, they're not registering what is happening. In fact, they're barely able to process what is happening around them, right? So just know who you're talking to in that moment, right? Because we can make adjustments or we can create decompression strategies, but more often than not, it's necessary, especially for rescue dogs, especially early on in your fostering period with them. Does that make sense to everybody? Let's see, where they're going to be when you're gone. That's another kind of thought to have, right? Now, management and prevention are your two best problem-solving approaches, okay? If a dog is jumping on guests when they walk in the door, we can manage their access to the guests so they don't practice that behavior, right? We can have them on a leash, backyard, in the crate, in a different room, bring them out to meet them out there. There's a lot of different approaches. But if you leave it up to them, especially the impulsive ones, they're going to be impulsive, right? Why wouldn't they? Okay? One other thing I think is important to consider about your environment are the variables within your environment. We're talking other people, other animals, kids, or outside environmental factors. All right, because again, you want to make your environment for this foster dog as stable as possible, so you can learn this dog, right? If your house is a revolving door, and your dog's like hyper aware of that, right? They're going to stay hyper aware of that until there's reason not to be, right? I'm not saying close your doors, don't let anybody in. It's just get to know the dog before you start throwing curveballs at them, right? Because they're going to take it and they're going to respond to whatever way makes sense to them, right? Variables, like I said, guests, animals, kids, just keep it at a minimum at first, at whatever is absolutely necessary until we can build trust in this dog in novel scenarios, right? Because again, we have to build trust with, just like the dog is building trust with us, right? And if we, let's say first day we get the dog, we bring it out here to the brewery, he may like it. He may be overstimulated, right? But the reality is, where is stability? Where is decompression? Get there first before we go to the next thing, right? One last thing on the environmental factors is passerby reactivity. Okay, this is a huge thing. Does anyone, who raise your hand if you've heard me talk about passerby reactivity, maybe in a session or anything like that? I know Amy has. Where's Cullen's mom? Did he bark out the front of your house at all? The door, yeah, your other dog. That's what it was. Yep. So passerby reactivity in a nutshell is dogs barking out of windows or doors or glass or fences or barriers, okay? It does not take long for them to start practicing this behavior, whether they've learned it in the past or they learn it in real time or they pick it up from another dog, which all those can happen, okay? The reality of the situation, that's another example, I should say, of human interpretation being not super accurate. Because people will think dog's barking out of the house because he's guarding the house, you know what I mean? And if you understand guarding, you can say that, but it's not going to be how a common pet owner will interpret that, you know? The reality is things approach the house, people walk by, delivery truck comes by, garbage truck, people with dogs walk by, and the dogs react, okay? They bark, they jump on the window, whatever. Then that thing goes away. It keeps walking down the street, and then they stop barking, right? So what you have is a sequence of behaviors. Note the thing, react to the thing goes away, done. So that pattern itself is reinforcing that dog to bark at stuff, because that thing is going away, but they're not making it go away. It was on his own way, right? So does anyone's dog do that? No judgment. Raise them high. Be proud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's common. I mean, to the point where like this PSA that I'm recording right now will go somewhere, right? But the reality is you can help them with that through management and prevention, okay? The easiest, experiment that you can do to help resolve passerby reactivity is frosted window film on your window, right? Y'all laugh, but I say, Amy, did you try it? Yeah. 100% success rate. And that's probably over 100 easily at this point. People just trying it. I say, try it for a week, see what happens. For everyone who had their hand up, how is it napping at your own house? It's probably hard. Any moment, you get jolted up because they're seeing something outside. Or even the thought of something outside, right? I get you. I get you. Yeah, you can't even think about a nap, right? 4 of them, right? But the reality is that window is a major stressor and stimulus for your dog and for you, because your dog starts barking, oh, we got to go to the window, you know? I mean, it's a whole thing. But by managing their access visually to that thing, now there's no payoff. I'm not saying it's a cure-all for sounds of the garbage truck in front of your house, right? But the reality is we've eliminated one sense, and that can produce a result in itself, right? I did that experiment with my dog 3 or so years ago, and it was a world changer. Because she would be in that window all day till I came home, and then when I came home, she's with the film up, totally relaxed. She's like, don't even bother me, I'm good, right? So you look at your environment and you say, okay, what could be stressing them out, right? And say, okay, how can we prevent them from having to deal with that stress unexpectedly, okay? Because coping with stress is something we want them to learn how to do through development, but not just by immersion or constant patterns. Because dogs that practice that passerby reactivity, at least from what I've observed, have a very strong tendency to go from 0, sleeping, to 10, full on reacting, right? And that spike in emotions is so dramatic and drastic that it's hard for them to keep it together. It's hard for them to keep bringing themselves down and regulate, which we'll talk about in a second. But that little adjustment, I just wanted to mention it to you guys. Window film is a game changer. Okay? All right. So the next thing I want to focus on is you guys learning a specific dog. Okay? The foster that you're considering. You have to learn that dog. So that way you can be its interpreter. You can translate to other people, oh, this is this dog, this is what he's like, this is what he likes, this is what he doesn't like, this is whatever. You will become the biggest source of knowledge for this dog by fostering because you're living with it. All right? So I'm going to show you some videos of a dog y'all may know. His name is Wilbur. Who's met Wilbur? Just a few. All right, good, glad. Okay, so when I first, let's see, how do I want to do this? I'm just going to start with when I first put eyes on Wilbur, okay? Because he had some baggage coming in, nothing crazy, right? But young dog, okay? He's an adolescent, big dog, all right? I'm going to show you a video of when I first got to meet him, and I'm going to point out some things in this video that may not jump right out to you guys, but over time I want it to, okay? Because there are nuanced things you'll be able to see in these videos, okay? So let me see what we got, number one. Okay, so what Wilbur was doing out here, all right, he's eating. Everyone see the little red thing on the ground right in front of him? It's going to be very quick, but you see it behind him on the ground? Okay, so what that is a feeder toy, all right? So Wilbur was eating, all right? Now, Wilbur, highly food motivated, highly aroused dog, okay? That's how he should be fed, okay? When it comes to feeding dogs, I mentioned feeding, eating, or feeding, sleeping, decompression when you're gone. Those could all be done in the same space, right? But the reality is if you have a dog like this who is highly aroused, especially by food, there's no need to engage with him while he's eating. He's doing a purely independent activity by eating outside with a wobbler, and nothing's bothering him, right? None of these videos go bad, just so you know, okay? They're all good videos, all right? And don't hold your breath, okay? Now, what I'm doing is I'm gauging his arousal to something novel while he's eating, okay? So what you're not gonna see is me holding up a ball that I'm gonna throw for him. This is kind of my little litmus test with him to see how much does he want to go back to the food? How much does he stick to the ball, right? Or does he not go for either and just want to play with me? All right, this is data collection, okay? But what you're going to see is I'm going to throw it for him. You see him doing a happy dance. You also see him go right back to the wobbler. Interesting, right? So you saw a happy dance. Everyone's seen a dog do that, right? It means they're excited. They're aroused, okay? I use the word arousal because I think it speaks more to emotions than just excited, right? But so what he just did in that very quick moment was got excited, redirected his arousal to the wobbler. So that tells me he knows that thing, and that thing is it can be an outlet for him, right? Now I'm going to throw this ball. I think I'm going to throw this ball. Next video. But you can see his personality, right? You see him bouncing. He's very animated, right? He's a giant goober. He's a great dog. This video right here is where I'm going to throw the ball. Good. So when he has the ball on his own, now there is no more input from the person. Now I can see how much arousal is he generating on his own with a novel toy. All right? Excited, excited. Now, from across the yard, he went back to that thing, okay? And I tried to encourage him to play with the ball, but it's like, that thing's still got stuff in it, right? So again, highly food motivated. That's rule number one. Or that's what I've learned from him. And he gets excited easily. I don't know how that happens. It's probably better in the dark. Probably is. Okay. So now, I'm going to show you. Okay. So this is, I'm also holding something exciting for him. I don't remember exactly, but I want you to look at something. So, you look at his tongue right here. See these lines in his tongue? Can everyone see those? I know it's maybe a little blurry. There's one straight one, and then there's lines from the side. Anyone ever seen your dog's tongue shrink? Something to look for. Okay. Now, when dogs are highly aroused, you will notice dilated eyes. You will notice tongue striation. Okay. In other words, their tongue shrinks. And everyone knows what a big floppy tongue looks like, right? But that sucked-in tongue is like, oh my gosh, I can't contain it anymore. I'm so thrilled about whatever it is. Right? A dog in that state is not thinking logically. They're just in candy land, right? Right? Other signs of hyperarousal that are more common. Zoomies, everyone's seen that. Humping, whether it's a pillow, whether it's a dog, whether it's a person, just humping, right? You see it a lot at dog parks and play groups and things like that. What's another one? Yeah, hypersalivating, like almost like cotton mouth and all around there. Right? Yeah, mouthing, jawing, prompting people to play with me, right? Just impulsively. That's another sign this dog is pretty aroused right now. Right? Now, again, with Wilbur, what I was learning is, okay, how much arousal can he take before I ever brought him in with another dog? Okay, that was rule number one for me, was learn this dog, teach him how to regulate with me, then translate that with another dog. So you're going to see that process right here. Right? So he and I, in this video, let's see what comes. So the way I do this is I play red light, green light with dogs. This is how I play with dogs. And this is how I would encourage you guys to play with dogs too, because it gives you moments to recognize where they're at right now. Okay? It's super fun to play with dogs. They love it, we love it, right? It's also super easy to push them over that threshold of arousal. Now it's like, oh my gosh, what happens with this dog? Right? We cause a lot through our input of play. Okay, so what I'm doing with him, and you're going to see it build. I'm just going to kind of let it run a little bit. You're going to see it build, but I'm moving my hands around. I'm trying not to touch him, but I am trying to see, okay, how much does he get aroused if I give him the minimal input, right? And then I'm letting him work it down. Okay, and it takes a lot of patience to do this, right? But I know if I go too hard off the first bat, he's going to be way too much, right? So we're trying some pressure, trying some different things, pushing, things like that. Good. Again, I'm just noting, okay, how does he take in this arousal? All right? Because towards the end of this video, I'm going to jump ahead in a second. You're going to see him regulate himself. That is what I'm looking for. So different signs of dogs regulating their emotions. First one is shaking off, like this. Full body shakes, right? The other one is sneezing. That's a big one. Removing themselves from the play. Like if he stops playing with me right now and goes to drink water, beautiful. You just took your own break, buddy. Excellent. Okay? Young dogs don't take breaks that well. Ask your 10-year-old dog. Ask your older dogs. They're like, get some out of here. Right? So, let's see. And he's awesome. And he loves to play. Again, I'm giving him these opportunities by removing my input to see if he'll regulate himself. All right? And this was when I first met him. This is so now I'm going to jump ahead to a point where he regulates himself. Okay? So I'm playing with my feet with him, all different sorts of things. Stop and go. You watch dogs play, there is a lot of stop and go. It is not just full speed go all the way. For the puppies, it is, but they tie around. Good. Did you see that little shake right there? Right? Tiny, but something. Okay, that doesn't tell me he's calm. It tells me he's trying. Okay? Now, I read it up from here. Okay, let's see what's Actually, it doesn't take long. So watch what happens in real time. first little play where he shook. And then he kind of built, he tried to prompt me, and then he's like, oh, right? So clearly that shake doesn't mean he's falling. Here we go. Let's see. Now watch what happens after this. About 10 seconds. See, I'm thinking about bringing him up again, but I'm not going to. Big shake right there, right? See, if I had gone earlier, he probably would have zoomed again, right? But by giving him that opportunity, he regulated. Now we're back. All right, now I can ramp up more, okay? Now, he doesn't drink water in this entire video, and there's a bucket of water right here. Towards the end, I try to even present it to him. He couldn't. Let's see, what are we doing? What are we doing, right? So I think I go inside. So I'm like, all right, it's there for you. Go for it if you want to. And he's like, where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? Right? But by me removing myself now, I was able to create an opportunity where he could go and drink the water. Right? I mean, you just watch this video and you're like, oh, they're playing, it's a great time. But there's so much to dig into in that little 5-minute video right there. Right? Any questions about that video? Yes.
You say the dog sneeze.
Yes. Yeah, they sneeze. It's more like a kind of thing. Right? Does that sound familiar to anybody? Right? You get good at it. Secret is if you can learn how to do that, you can sneeze at a dog and they'll sneeze back. Right? Next time you're watching two dogs play, watch them play. I'm going to show you some videos of it. They're going to be shaking. Go drink water. I mean, it is beautiful to watch. It's like a dance, right? You just have to know what to look for. And you also have to know what we may inherently be causing indirectly. Overexcited young dogs or overexcited dogs, right?
Hey, Anthony,
Yes.
when you see the dog like shake or sneeze, should you like praise that?
I do. I mean, I don't think it makes a difference. I mean, maybe I should take that back and think. Yeah, I mean, we could encourage them. I don't think it's make or break, one or the other. I always call it out, but I think that's also just habitual to show other people, look what just happened. That's really great, right? So yeah, I mean, I do encourage them probably every time, right? Any other questions about that video? Let me show you this one, okay? Y'all seen Wilbur's personality now, right? This is him going into something new, okay? I want you to see the difference in his body language when he encounters this. Whoa, real slow, slumpy, bent over, weights back a little bit, right? He's checking it out, right? That tells me he's not going to go for everything, right? He has reservations about new things. He's not scared of it. He's not going to touch it. It's just, whoa, let me see what's happening, right? Very insightful for him. Okay. Now, make sure. So let's say you have a dog that's way overstimulated, okay? And you're like, oh gosh, we were playing, now he's too much. What do I do? Okay? Creating an opportunity for him to decompress with an outlet for that arousal, that's what we're looking at. That's how you approach it, okay? Because in reality, I like to think of this arousal scale, okay? I'm playing with the dog, I hype them up too much, now they're way up here, okay? If I just put them in a room or in a crate and close the door and walk out, that energy is there. Where does it go? It goes into the crate bars, goes into the floor, whatever, it goes into barking, right? So utilizing busy work becomes an outlet for that arousal, and it's very helpful when you're trying to teach the dog how to just hang out with you versus just playing with you, right? Because that's what Wilbur struggles with a lot, is just being with the person. He loves playing, but being with the person not playing is challenging for him, right? Plus he's got a lot of needs. So this is just something that I call busy work, something you can give the dogs, whether they're isolated or with you. This is just a frozen call, but it gives them something to do, especially the adolescents. They need an outlet for all that arousal. Okay. Now, after I had spent some time with Wilbur, so this was in February, So probably like 3 months after Wilbur started to stay with me, then I introduced him to a dog because he was able to regulate with me. Right? It took time for him to get there, but once we got there, I was like, okay, now I can start to see how you are with other dogs. Right? Now, the way that I introduce dogs, one is I try to have both dogs comfortable wearing a muzzle. I mean, muzzles are fantastic tools because they can create safe scenarios without us having to hyper-manage a scenario. Keep a dog on a leash. Now they can do things more naturally, right? Now what you're going to see is Wilbur behind the gate and my dog Snow on the other side of the gate. Both dogs have muzzles, and Snow of my crew is the most open to other dogs, to more dogs. We can leave it like that. We can leave it like that. Yeah, that's fine. If y'all are. But okay, so what you're going to see is something that I discovered with Wilbur. Okay. You can't hear him, but he's barking. You can see he's barking. Right? Now, I know Wilbur, and I'm like, that's weird, right? So, I'm looking for her. I'm looking at that dog to see, okay, how turned off is she by him doing that? Or how offended is she by him doing that? Not so much. And then I toss food for Wilbur to see, is he still there enough to go follow something else? Or is he fixed on that fence in the dog, right? So by seeing general looseness from both dogs, and plus I know both dogs really well, I was like, okay, I'm going to try this a little bit differently. All right? I'm not just going to let that build and build and build and build. Okay? We're going to readjust this scenario. So what I did was I had them meet off leash in that yard, both wearing muzzles. So I let them out here. Now you're going to see puppy-like behavior from Wilbur. Okay? Come on, just play with me, just love me, just come on. I ain't doing all the right things. She is just like, I'm trying to get to know you too, buddy. Right? She's very twitchy, Snow is. Again, these videos do not go bad. Just so you know. Now, I also just saw Snow punching. Like, they play with their paws. I just call it punching, right? And I was able to see Wilbur not overreact or do anything crazy. So I'm like, all right, she's communicating, he's receiving. He did. Beautiful. So that's another thing, right, that I'm looking for. Okay, is general looseness as they're playing and regulation within the play. Okay. Now, Snow, you had the volume up. You can hear her sneeze, right? But now she's starting to respond to him. Okay. So, like when it comes to a foster dog and an established dog, or a foster dog and another foster dog, we're trying to curate a relationship between these dogs, right? But we're not just throwing them out there and saying, y'all work it out, right? We're trying to be mindful, and of course I'm supervising, and I'm looking for complementary play. You saw that pause in the play, right? She's not afraid to match his energy either. Play battles, both dogs, right? Everyone know what a play battle is? Does anyone not know? Okay. That right there from Snow, that's a play guy. Right? And there are different variations in it, right? Okay, so let's see this. So what I'm also learning from this, these interactions, is I'm learning what is Wilbur's play style. Okay, there are so many different types of play when it comes to dogs, but I'm learning, okay, what does Wilbur like to do? So that way, if I'm thinking ahead, all right, if I have a 9-year-old dog who hasn't lived with dogs and bring him in the house, it's going to be not matched, right? I don't want to play, I don't even know how to play versus all I want to do is play, right? So recognizing compatibility between these, right? This is another example of them regulating together. Now, this is the next day, trust is built, I've watched both dogs. Now we're doing mount play, right? Nothing wrong with this type of play as long as both dogs are on board. It's so lost.
How do you end up
So, a great question. Good. So, I never pick one body language example to hold everything, right? It's the big picture, okay? So, like, tails that are high and tight, I mean, you could say that they're just more aroused in the moment, okay, but not out of control aroused. Does that make sense? It's like the hair on the back of their, on their backs, right? I remember when I was first learning, I was told like that means that something bad's about to happen, and it's not the case. It's just, ooh, their senses are up, right? Again, they're aroused or they're getting excited, but I don't point it at the whole thing. Try to look at the whole picture, right? General looseness in play is great. Mirroring each other in play is great. Role reversal in play is great. I chase you, now you chase me, or I'm on top, and now you're on top, or I bite your leg, and you bite my leg, right? General looseness and compatibility, or I should say general looseness and role reversal may lead us to think these dogs are compatible. Does that make sense? Now, these play sessions, I should say, are no longer than probably 7 minutes, if that, because Wilbur gets way too excited, right? Plus, I want to give her a break for a minute, right? I don't want them to get to a point where she's like, get away from me, right? I want to end it on the terms that are good, right? So I just saw Snow do a nice shape too. Oh, Wilbur too, both of them. So here's another example of them mirroring each other. He does it, Snow's like, I'll take a break too. Right? And now they're back, right? It's almost like they're leveling down, right? And now we're playing. You're getting different games, shovel games, mountain games, pushing games. You watch dogs for 2 minutes, you could probably list 5 or 6 different games within that 2 minutes that they play. Slapping, right? Again, I go forward and backwards, right? Excellent. Right? This is where you want to get to, right? Where they both play for a little bit, and they're both like, I'm done. Right? But, young man, Wilbur, doesn't take much. He's like, let's say I stand up. All it takes is me standing up. He's like, what are we doing? Now he's in the excited land again, right? So as you're living with your foster, you start to pick up on different things that get them a little more excited, okay? People coming and going are big ones, right? But it really depends on the dog, okay? Any questions about that kind of interaction? Yes?
You said like 7 minutes.
That time, yes.
So do you like stop them, separate them?
Yeah. So this kind of ties back into decompression, you know. And Wilbur, prime example of a dog that needs like decompression therapy, you know. Like I would say at my house, he maybe spends, let's say, 40% of his time with me or with another dog and 60 by himself decompressing. That's probably fair. Just because he couldn't contain himself, right? Yeah, I mean, I try to always start small and then build up. But yeah, so the idea would be like, I can tell Wilbur, come on, and he's gonna go. And then we go up in his room, give him a call, let him be, right? And then I leave him.
So what about like in public places, like in a dog park or?
So, yeah, so, well, like, the thought, like, I would love that we know beforehand that this dog can take in that type of environment versus find out there, right? But like I tell people, if you're like taking a foster into a novel environment, go with no agenda. Don't go to PetSmart to get dog food. Like, don't go to Home Depot to get whatever, right? You go for the sole purpose of seeing how this dog does in that environment. And then you kind of adjust over time, right? Yeah, we would like to kind of work our way into that. But like dog park, infinite variables because of the other dogs and their whole history too. Yeah.
With regards to the muzzle, I don't know if we really, AGBs never really muzzle dogs just because of the time we have them. I'm sure there's many reasons and we're just not experienced to train anyone, but a muzzle on.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, as foster coordinators, we're trying to guide our fosters to introduce a dog, kind of like in the second video where it was day 2 with Snow,
Right.
because there was not a day that they got to be muzzled.
Right.
And so do you have anything that you can talk to about the introduction
the first part would be like two unknown dogs. You know what I mean? So like before these dogs ever meet, we can have that, like the two humans can have that conversation. What kind of play is this dog like? You know, I mean, that's where we really start like diving into the specifics of those two. You know, like I don't know who else. Oh, they already know. But I was asking Maggie's parents, you know, what's her history with small dogs? You know, I mean, like what's that dog's history with dogs like this? Just to get an idea, right? Because we like to not play puppetry. Or like, you know, I mean, just because our sensitivities now become a factor. You know, if we're inherently like creating resistance, you know, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea, it's just saying like, it is kind of unfortunate of how many dog breedings go so smoothly. And I think that really just speaks to the adaptability of dogs in real time. You know, in other words, like, we get lucky a lot, I think, with dogs, you know. But when it comes to rescue cases, we can't know everything, you know. So I do try to lean towards safety just because it can let things play out more naturally. And then we have that insight to go, okay, this dog is good with a lot of dogs. Right? Now, let's say your only option is to do leash breedings. Okay, I'll explain how I like to do it. One, find a space. It can be as big as that little grassy space out there. It doesn't have to be massive, like a full yard or anything like that. But then I see, okay, how can we help these dogs start to get to know each other, right? Let's say dog A goes and pees on a tree over here. Okay, walking over there, dog B, come smell this pee. You know, they gain information a lot. Like, at my house, I have a lot of dogs, but they all started separately, completely. That was because I had to go through this process of learning them, right? But they were also indirectly sharing the backyard together, or the front yard, whatever. They're smelling and hearing each other. They're just not in close quarters, right? Because there's a lot that we have to consider prior to the meeting. You know, if this dog's way up here, and this dog's right here, even if we were planning on it, probably not the best idea. Now we could try parallel leash walks or across the street, engage that, right? But if our only option is leash in close quarters, what I like to do is, like I said, let them smell neutral things. But then I'll try to get the dog B, let's say, facing this way. All right, and someone's over here feeding treats or just occupying attention. Dog A is going to come smell that dog for a few seconds and then break. And then we try to reverse that. The entire time we're reading body language. Because if this dog is like, what are you doing? You know, I mean, there's sensitivity there. Maybe go a little slower, right? Or just call it, or whatever, you know? So throughout that entire process, we're reading body language, right? Now, what we would do at the shelter was that if we saw looseness from both dogs, and then if we saw attempts to play, then we would let them drag leashes into space. You know? I mean, that can be debated too, whether they drag a leash or not, but just you're mindful of obstructions or things that can get caught on and stuff. It's just kind of an easier way to separate them if we need to. Right? But if you're seeing general looseness and you're seeing complementary play, now there's no threat to each other. The thing now to keep an eye on is how excitable are they getting, right? So does that answer?
It does help. That's a big question that we often have to answer to do fosters.
Yeah.
And so having your video to give them some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. You know, it's tricky. But I try to. I mean, I wish muzzles were not as stigmatized as they are, because I think muzzles are one of the greatest tools that you have. Same with X pins. You know, X pins is basically the fence that I have dividing where Wilbur was and where Snow was, right? So you have a barrier. That becomes another scenario where you can let things play out more naturally without restriction and still get a lot of insight, right? But I wish that we would start muzzle training with puppies, you know, from here on out, you know, just because whether it's a vet visit, whether it's a dog breeding, whether it's a person breeding, whether it's, who knows, eating food, you know, in a lot of ways muzzles can be helpful. Okay.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
I a lot of times have fosters saying that what they need to do with the dog is they need to take the dog lots of activity and try to wear the dog out, and that's going to make it better. I was curious what your thoughts were on that. We talk a lot about decompression, but I want to say that dog needs lots of activity.
Yeah.
That dog needs a lot of activity.
A lot of outlets, right? So to look at you have to know that dog, and I'll harp back on it a lot, right? But like, let's say I get a 2-year-old golden retriever foster, and I just gotta work it. We're gonna go running every day, we're gonna play every day, we're gonna do all this stuff, right? Very active lifestyle, right? If that's your lifestyle, be prepared, because this dog now learns this lifestyle, right? We're doing stuff all the time, right? So there's a balance. There's a great balance between both of them, right? I mean, I'm a huge fan of, there's active enrichment and then there's passive enrichment, right? Active is involving you. And when it comes to doing this active enrichment, again, you have to know the dog. Because like, you saw how I worked my way into really playing with him. If I come out the gate like that, he's gonna match me, and then, cool, jazz fest, right? There's a lot going on. But as far as like wearing dogs out, there's mentally, that is the most exhausting thing dogs can do, is use their brain. You know, more than physical, right? Because there's gonna be physical endurance being built, right? I mean, the amount of stories I've heard of a person trying to run their dog to exhaustion, and that dog's endurance builds to cross country. You know, he's going. So I think there's a balance between both, but in reality, mental stimulation is going to produce that same result, and it's more fun, I think. I mean, like on that kind of note, things that I think are important to help dogs develop. Number one is patience, right? Help dogs develop patience, and we have to be patient to help them develop patience. Right? It's kind of like we're all getting patient, right? But if you recognize the opportunities for patience that you have every day, it's not as much of an undertaking, right? So like, let's say this is my back door right here, and I'm about to let the dog go out the back door, all right? Let's say I'm going out the door, the dog's like jumping on the door, calling all these things, right? I don't have to open the door. I can just stand there. Right? I encourage you tonight, do this with your dogs. Just stand there. Watch what goes through their brain. Watch what they cycle through. Some dogs, very task motivated, then they start offering things like crazy. Sit, lay down, whatever gets me out this door faster, right? Some dogs may start demand barking, yelling at you, right? But what you're looking for are any of those signs of regulation, or just general calmer behavior, right? You see them, let's go outside, right? Watch it start happening like clockwork, and then watch it start to trickle into other areas of their life too. Play with you, other exciting things. Other opportunities for patience before you let them out of the crate, or go in the crate, or before you give them food, or give a treat, or love them. You know, just recognize the opportunities for patience and try to take advantage of them. But not by micromanaging. And I'm not telling this dog, sit, wait, sit, stop. I'm just letting time pass. You'd be amazed at what you can observe if you let time pass. And take this from me, because there's been so many scenarios I've been in where I'm about to like shift gears, and then I wait for another second, and then that result happens. That regulation. It's right there. You know what I mean? We just have to see it happen. And once you see it happen, once you learn how to kind of create that scenario where they're excited and then they regulate, you can do it again and again. So play is my favorite way to do it, but if you recognize these other opportunities, it will bleed outwards into their kind of life. So patience is something I try to help dogs develop. Resiliency. Dogs are extremely resilient and adaptable, right? But more on the sensitive, spooky, biggest spook side of things, if there's something that scares them, helping them bounce back and maybe engage with that thing or not. We're talking more like inanimate objects, like a statue or a trash bag or a thing that's just normal, right? That spooks them. Helping them kind of bounce back on their own terms with that thing. Let's take a vacuum cleaner, for example. A lot of dogs are freaked out by vacuum cleaners. They're weird and loud and move, right? So if you have a dog that's scared of a vacuum cleaner, a place where we would start is vacuum is off, it's unplugged, right? Just create a little trail of treats towards it, right? And then just watch. Again, we're not pressuring the dog. We're going to let it do its own thing. But you will get some information. Let's say it's 3 treats away, and then that's its fault. Okay? Okay, that's as far as it would go right then. But now you have a baseline to go for the next time. Look, he's going all the way. It's not a big deal at all, right? So recognizing the opportunities for resiliency too are big time confidence boosters, right? So confidence comes through learning and just from living a life that they can predict. Once they can predict things, okay, now I have a shot, right? Last thing was patience, independence. Patience, resiliency, confidence, and independence. Independence is a big one, right? And we don't think about it a lot, and a lot of times rescue dogs can be very independent if we give them a chance, right? So that's why I like creating a space that's separate from where I'm at, where the dog can decompress, where it can eat, where it can do enrichment activities, where it can be just by themselves, right? I don't think we put a lot of value on independence in dogs because we just like to spend a lot of time with them, which is great, right? But helping them become independent is a game changer in a lot of different areas of their life, like boarding. Anybody's dog here, when it boards or you go out of town, it doesn't eat? Is that anyone? Yeah. It's very common. I mean, because they're like, I'm gonna wait till my world is perfect. Now I feel good, comfortable enough to go do that thing, right? So like feeding separate is something that I think we take for granted because if you have a dog that can eat totally comfortably, independent of itself, it's gonna make that boarding experience easier. That daycare experience easier to tolerate because I'm comfortable being by myself. I'm not saying leave them in a room for, we're not being cruel. We're just building independence. Okay? Freedom of choice. Letting dogs make choices. That's the door example, right? Where I'm not telling it what to do. I'm giving it a chance to make choices on their own. When they figure something out and it works, they will do it again full speed because they're like, okay, I know the quickest way to get through that door is if I sit right there and here I go, right? Give them a chance to make choices and support their choices. It makes life a lot easier and less micromanaging. Okay. Play, we talked about some play. Unhealthy play, let me mention this. Unhealthy play is just one side, one or the other. They're not matching. One dog's way overbearing this other dog. Okay? You're looking for complementary play or regulation within the play. Okay? See, I was going to show you some of these videos, and I will if we have time, but does anyone, let me mention this because Amy and them gathered some questions. Resource guarding. Okay, we're talking, assuming this is talking about food resource guarding, because really resource guarding there's lots of different resources, right?
Toys and food are probably the biggest.
Toys and food are the biggest ones.
And then I have fosters telling me that the dog's resource guarding person.
Yeah, that's probably like what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Dogs find sanctuary under people and then nothing come near me, like the dog saying that, right? Space is another thing that is debatable about resource guarding, but I think it's also very similar to this situation when you have the person. Like if you have a foster and another dog and they're playing or it's getting a little testy and one dog is trying to remove himself from the play, goes to his bed or goes under the table, or goes into a space, right? And that other dog comes near him and it's growling or snapping or barking at it. He is just communicating, don't come near me, right? And if this dog can't register that or can't help himself but go to that dog, now we separate. We give him a break. Breaks are so valuable. But resource guarding food, I think, is a behavior that we manage, right? If you have a dog or a known dog that resource guards food, feed them in a space where they don't practice it. Yeah, I mean, it's a very simple adjustment to make, but it can be conflicting for whatever reason. We want to spend time with them, or we want to make sure they don't choke on the food or whatever, right? But like, independent feeding is the approach for that. And it doesn't have to be anything else. But like, let's say that wobbler that Wilbur had, let's say I was feeding him in his crate with that thing, okay? And I'm going to let Wilbur out of his space. So I go in there, I have to be mindful that that wobbler is in there. And I have to be mindful that that thing could still have food in there, right? So no need to panic, and also no need to dive in there and go remove it really quickly. Let him go out. Now we can remove it safely, because he's not even in the picture. Right? There's a lot of strategy to that right there. And if you can get in a good practice of that, I think it's really going to help eliminate the resource guarding from being practiced, right? And don't try to like cure it by messing with him while he's eating. Bad idea. Again, that's another scenario I think where it's kind of remarkable where a lot of people aren't getting bit, and that just speaks to the species, speaks to dogs, right? But not wise to do. Resource guard. Leash reactivity is a deep topic. I won't go too deep into it, but there's a couple approaches. One is you can call me and I can help you with that, right? The other approach is to go to environments where there's not a lot going on. You know, I tell people churches on the week, during the week, or school campuses on the weekend are ideal kind of sanctuary spaces that you can go walking with your dog and not have to encounter a whole lot of stimulus, right? But the way that I approach reactivity in general is teaching dogs a different way of interacting with that thing that is triggering it, right? Because they're interacting with it currently by barking at it. Stay away, don't come close, right? The way that I try to teach them is all you have to do is observe that thing calmly, and a result happens that they're in favor of. They look, we give them a treat. They look at it, so they build a new way of interacting with things in their environment by just observing. Muzzles very experienced. Yeah. Any other big questions? Or if y'all wish to videos, yeah.
How a lot of dogs lately been are really struggling with separation anxiety. Either they go to foster or go to adoption, like to the point where it's disruptive and
Okay.
dangerous
Yeah.
for the dog.
Gotcha. So, big thing about separation anxiety is, excuse me, there are levels to that, okay? You're talking the extreme level, right? But I'll mention really quickly, there is bound to be some form of stress when a dog is like put up for the first time, or it's behind a door and you're still in the house, right? So expect certain levels of stress. Whining, whimpering, barking, howling, okay? Things that are helpful for me, especially with separation anxiety cases, are pet cameras. Cameras so you can document and observe without being in that room, right? Because anxiety and stress in dogs, in most cases, comes in waves. Okay, turn around and okay? When you see them get to that point where they're like, okay, and I lay down, that gives you, it personally for me, it empowers me a lot to know that they can do it, right? They can get to that. And then we can gauge over time, is it getting small, like, are they getting to that space sooner, or are they stressing more, right? But you gotta start somewhere. When you have destruction, when it comes to separation anxiety, it's really tricky because of the nuances of the specific scenario, right? Because there are a lot of different ways to manage dogs, crates, guest rooms, pinned off spaces, whatever. So it kind of depends on that. But I try to always start with feeding. Like if you can get this dog comfortable eating by himself, then we can build off of that. Because we can then try busy work, try enrichment things, and know that he's open to it, right? But there's a lot of specifics that I would dig into for that scenario. Things that I think are helpful for those spaces where they may be separated: lighting like this is perfect. Sound, TV, clock radio, audiobooks. Doesn't have to be anything dog tailored, just atmosphere. Create atmosphere in that space. And then outlets. Chews that you can trust them with, I should say. Calls that you can trust them with. Anything you give your foster or dog for the first time, always supervise, just so you can trust them with that thing. And then if it is hyper severe, we could potentially start a strategy to gaining independence by short spurts by themselves and things like that. So I would say there's just a lot to dig into. All right, any other questions? Maybe not. All right, let me see if there's any other video. Let's just watch Wilbur and Lefty playing, and then we'll get it. he's with, actually with 2x2 wrestling. And they're like the same. They're bounce around. I say they play like deers. They're bouncing, you know. But it also tells me that Wilbur can adjust to that dog. Like they can mirror each other. But this is good for both of them because they're both, like I said, both adolescents, both have some sensitivities, but they have everything.
Well, don't there be certain issues maybe with dogs or with people? Do you remember
People.
people?
Well, I mean, I can't speak exactly for what came in because I don't remember exactly,
Yeah.
but I'll say right now, you know. But also barriers. So when I introduced Wilbur to Lefty, I had a feeling of what's going to happen would happen, which is the barrier frustration, right? Which I saw was snow. So it's a known factor now, right? So like if Wilbur was boarding or going to a dog daycare or getting adopted by someone with a chain link fence in their front yard, there's chances we will see this again. Why wouldn't we, right? The one thing you'll see from the black dog in this video is he's going to keep looking at me. Is it okay? He's very insecure. He didn't even look at me. So stiff, loose, interest, not sure. Their brains are wavering. They're young guys. He's like, I don't know about this guy. I don't know about this guy, right? Good. So I'm seeing play behavior from Wilbur. Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. Right? He's not bashing through the fence. He's not gnarling or anything like that. Here we go. And Lefty is fast. So he just has to muster up confidence enough to get away. And now we're playing. So we're going to give him a second to kind of lose. Wilbur's a little overwhelming at first. Now you notice Lefty's body language is very reserved. His tail tight, really tight, right? So again, he's still feeling it out. And if it stayed like this for any extended period of time, I would give them a break for Lefty. Right? Now we're starting to see more galloping, more trotting. His tail loosening up a little bit, right? But like I said, Lefty wavers. He goes up. I'll show you one more video because it's pretty interesting. All right. Now, what you're going to see is they're playing chase now. All right. I want you to see how quick dogs react to each other. All right. I just noticed this today when I watched it for the first time. But in a second, they're going to run past right here, and you're going to see Wilbur's behind, Lefty's in front. Wilbur's about to kind of mount right here, and you're going to see Lefty turn back really quickly, and Wilbur's going to go to the other side. I'll play it a couple times. So I'll tell you when it's going. Right there. Did you see it? Oh. See it? Watch the black dog and watch what he does. Black dog's going to turn, he's going to go to the other side. They're reading each other as they're moving together. It's not a bad thing, it's just an observation. And another thing is it tells me that if the dog corrects Wilbur, he's going to perceive it appropriately. Right? Very quickly.
So that look was telling Wilbur to back off?
Yeah. And not maybe back off isn't the right word, but like, don't do that. You know, I think that's probably bad. Because again, remember, dogs are communicating about things right. So it's like, good, not that. Okay, we're good. Right? See if I can pause it right when he corrects. Try to put it out. Yeah. He's fast. Right. Okay. And here's another version of play. Last thing. Inside play. Okay. These two would do this forever. Okay? So again, noting when they need breaks, because they're not either capable of taking their own breaks because they're both children, right? You have to recognize it, right? But again, we're looking for them to go drink water. We're looking for losers. We're looking for complementary play. But these guys are just having fun. Good. That break right there, there's a moment of pause. Right. Wilbur saw him regulate. Excellent. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
This is more broad, but speak to the resources that you provide for a new adopter and like YouTube channel. We're gonna make this.
Oh, yeah.
After we leave today, how can people gain this information?
Yeah, so anyone that is fostering a dog, you're welcome. You can go to my website, noworriesdogtraining.com. There is a rescue tab. Click that. It has a link that you can schedule a consultation anytime. Right? So and that goes for you guys or anyone in the community that has a foster. I'm willing to do that for you. Same thing for new adopters. Free consultations for new adopters too. And same process, easy to get signed up. You can always email me, Anthony at noworriesdogtraining.com. I have content on my YouTube page and on my social media, but I'm admittedly not super active on social media. I get so involved in doing it. But if you ever have questions, you can always reach out or ask anybody in the organization too, and they can bring it to my attention.
I think it's really good to offer just, that first time resource so that you can promote adoption.
Thank you. Yeah, I think like you guys, like that part of the community is it's so honorable to take in a dog that's not yours, knowing it's not yours or going to be yours forever, unless you fail. I'm a failure too. But I think that sector of the community should get as many resources as you can take on, because y'all are doing such a service of taking these guys. Yeah, and I know it's not easy, and I know a lot of people everyone does the best they can, but if you can receive information or be helped, then I'm more than willing to.
Anthony, when we adopt out the dog, I guess I'm just asking for permission. Could we add your link
Yeah.
to
1000%.
send information on adoption information? I'd love to do that.
Yeah, 100%. I've tried to tell as many people you cannot abuse that. I will let you know if I won't do it.
I use it when they ask me for help, when they're having issues.
No, get ahead of it.
And, they just kind of hear them,
I'm waiting for the day where an organization makes it mandatory. I'm down. I don't know how many adoptions we would talk numbers and stuff like that, but realistically, I want to get ahead of challenges they're inevitably gonna face, right? Because I feel confident that I can meet a dog and foresee challenges they may experience before they experience them, right? But yeah, anything to get ahead of those to make it a better experience for everyone, but also my hope is that information that a foster gets translates to the next foster that they get, and so on, because you will learn exponentially. I'm just in a position where I get to meet hundreds of dogs, thousands of dogs. So I have a bigger data to pull from, right? But you spend enough time with them, you're going to see those trends. But yeah, by all means, you put that in your adoption packet or foster or whatever. Definitely. Anybody else? Well, thank you guys for letting me come chat.